The Labor and Employment Plan 2011 to 2016, or the LEP, seeks to attain inclusive growth as set forth in the Philippine Development Plan 2011-2016. It is anchored on the President's social contract with the Filipino people.
Layunin nating paramihin ang trabaho dito sa ating bansa upang hindi na kailangan ang mag-ibang bansa para makahanap lamang ng trabaho. Ngunit habang ito ay hindi pa natin naaabot, inaatasan po ang mga kawani at iba pang mga kinaukulang ahensya na mas lalo pang paigtingin ang pagtugon sa mga hinaing at pangangailangan ng ating overseas Filipino workers.
It is based on the 22-point platform and policy pronouncements on labor and employment with its overarching goal of investing in our human resource to make them more competitive and employable while promoting industrial peace based on social justice. As a plan that supports the PDP 2011 to 2016, the LEP sets strategic directions toward attaining the goal of inclusive growth. It is also a plan that reflects the collective priorities of various stakeholders toward addressing issues in labor and employment over the medium term and their aspiration to achieve the country's Millennium Development Goals of eradicating extreme poverty and hunger by achieving full and productive employment and decent work for all. But what is inclusive growth and why is it elusive? The Philippine Development Plan defines inclusive growth as sustained growth that massively creates jobs, draws the vast majority into the economic and social mainstream, and continuously reduces mass poverty. For the Philippines, inclusive growth has been elusive due to a number of reasons. Among them, 1. Weather disturbances that affect employment growth, particularly in the agricultural sector. 2. High population growth that barely catches up with the growth in employment. 3. High unemployment among the youth and educated. 4. High underemployment, especially in poor regions. 5. Increasing but low growth in labor productivity. 6. High incidence of vulnerable employment or the self-employed and unpaid workers. 7. High incidence of working poor. And 8. Gender gap in labor force participation rate. These same concerns were highlighted in the consultative process undertaken to gather from various stakeholders what they feel are the issues of the day in the area of labor and employment, and the policy and program reforms that they feel are necessary to address these issues in the medium term. This broad-based consultative process convenes stakeholders whose support is crucial to deriving outcomes, particularly those from workers, employers, migrant groups, civil society, government agencies, and international organizations, as well as youth organizations. Dialogues were also held with business and industry groups to gather inputs for the plan. Once drafted, the plan also went through participatory consultations and technical workshops where sectors were represented. The output of this process was then submitted last April 14 to the National Tripartite Industrial Peace Council, which unanimously adopted the plan through a council resolution. The LEP as a blueprint for labor and employment policies and programs provides strategies to address the key issues relating to employment, the need to balance business competitiveness with workers' rights, social protection, and social dialogue. Using the ILO framework of decent work, the plan lays down strategies to increase employment levels, improve the quality of employment, expand equal access to development opportunities, and advance social dialogue process for mutual or collective gains. Accordingly, the LEP outlines key strategies to achieve these intended outcomes. Unemployment. The LEP key strategies focus on the promotion of employment-intensive infrastructure programs, demand-driven education and training, reforms in employment facilitation, and promotion of entrepreneurship. With these strategies, the LEP expects to realize the outcome of increased levels of opportunities for and access to decent and productive employment. On rights at work, the key strategies include the review of the labor code and other labor laws to align them with the 1987 Constitution, current labor market realities, and international standards. Promotion of better labor standards compliance through voluntary and self-regulation schemes, policy reforms toward balancing worker security of tenure with business need for flexibility as a factor in competitiveness, and promotion of stronger protection for overseas workers. The expected outcome of these strategies is strengthened compliance with the constitutionally protected rights of workers. In the area of social protection, the plan highlights such key strategies as support for community-based employment program, developing sustainable livelihood and entrepreneurship for vulnerable workers, enhancing social protection programs to cover vulnerable workers, and implementing reforms in the current wage system to improve coverage for vulnerable workers. On social dialogue, the plan's key strategies include the promotion of plant, industry, and local government social dialogue, ensure transparency, accountability, efficiency, and integrity in labor adjudication systems, promotion of broad-based representation of stakeholders and policy making, and strengthening of industry tripartite councils at the plant and industry levels. With these strategies, the LEP expects to realize strengthened tripartism and broadened representation of workers as a tool for attaining employment goals and toward productivity gain sharing and competitiveness. Finally, the plan acknowledges the importance of sustaining outcomes over the medium term. It thus lays down strategies on building partnerships and labor governance, including in the development of industry-based approaches and voluntary codes of good practices. Reforms toward responsive public service and efficient use of resources, including simplified processes and convergence of programs, reforms toward transparency, accountability, and respect for the rule of law, capacity building among stakeholders, including human resource development and competency development at the Department of Labor and Employment, and active participation of civil society and the media in governance. Monitoring and feedback are also essential in sustaining outcomes and are therefore inherent to the LEP. Crucial in the next stage is the LEP's implementation, particularly those of the strategic responses it outlines. After its formal adoption by all the stakeholders, the Department of Labor and Employment together with stakeholders shall finalize a results matrix which shall provide details on planned programs, activities, measurable targets, and budgetary requirements. This results matrix shall serve as the plan's monitoring tool. The next step is generating actual commitments from stakeholders. This will be in the form of dialogues toward the adoption of a Philippine Jobs Pact that shall embody the multi-stakeholder commitment in realizing the goal of the LEP. All these steps toward achieving the goal of inclusive growth through decent and productive work shall ensure active participation and ownership of the strategies outlined in the LEP and eventually of the outcomes which the country and its people stand to gain in the next 5 years.